Second time today. It is almost 5:30 Saturday evening-ish, late afternoon. Evening for me, actually night for me, as I will actually be in bed in just over an hour or so. I was up just about 2:30 this morning, um, doing my stuff, which is, um, I guess we could call it my sadhana. I mentioned that earlier today, which means spiritual practice. Some people don't like using the term spiritual practice. Some people in the non-duality circle frown upon the use of spiritual practice. But for me, it's fitting. Um, I have no issue, no problem with it. I have no problem with any description, really. Just words. We do what we do. And if it brings us joy, if it brings us a sense of fulfillment, then you know what? Go for it. I'm 100% for it. So, I'm going to read from my blog, and I'm going to break precedents by reading what I wrote today. Usually, very often, I don't always like what I write immediately. I'm always pleased that I wrote. Um, I'm always happy that I have words on paper, a screen, really, and that it was my creative endeavor for the day. But usually when I'm done, I'm done. I put it aside. But um, I usually dive in and I read stuff from the past. But, you know, this morning is the past. So we'll read that. Going forward, hey, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. And they're saying, hi, Yogi. I'm just about to read from my blog. Usually read through something twice because I stumbled through it the first time. Um, oh, Daddy Dora. I like the name change. I did like Daddy Dora, but going forward has such a wonderful direction to it, you know, because we're certainly not going backwards. Um, so, yeah, I usually read through the first time and then I go through it again slower, and I'll break and I'll answer questions if anyone has it. I'll put in an aside of what's going forward. Um, Going forward, it says, thanks, personal reasons for changing. Sometimes we need to, sometimes, you know, we need to take that certain action to, as your name says, to move forward. Without the action, without name changes, without identity shifting, not holding to any set pattern, you know, we're never supposed to be one thing forever. There's great energy in being able to change your name, your persona, your beliefs, to be open, flexible. We're not human. We're not human nouns. We're verbs. We're in motion. We're meant to always be expanding, to always be flexible, to always be in fluctuation, in flux. So, um, this is about my earliest days of yoga. And it also deals with addiction. My earliest days of yoga were full of stories of manifestations and miracles. Inspired by Paramahansa Yogananda and his autobiography, and fully expecting to gain even the slightest siddhis, siddhis means spiritual powers, through my effort of proper yoga as presented by his Kriya Yoga. Of course, dramatic miracles eluded me. I was never able to instantly showcase my yogic powers, but looking back on these earliest days of yoga, miracles certainly did occur. Indeed, life-altering in some pretty amazing ways. My turn towards yoga, from years of dabbling to full commitment, was largely due to feeling that failure within the world, unable to gain the smallest hold of any kind of success I believed I needed. Drinking to excess every day of the week didn't help matters. Smoking, a poor diet, even though I prided myself as an athlete in training. It was an odd time of contradictions that can only be explained by being young, until it continued long past the time I should have let that behavior go. But that's the thing with addictions. There is no letting go without a large degree of grace involved. And yoga, meditation, cultivated that sense of grace. Miracles occurred. Smoking first. I don't even recall my last cigarette other than waking one morning without the urge to smoke. The draw to damage my lungs even further had simply disappeared. My diet changed soon after, cleaning out a large degree of unhealthy choices, adding fruits and vegetables in return, and switching to a largely vegetarian diet as my empathy towards every life overcame the appetite of cruelty and the harm to animals, although I was still many years away from my eventual turn to being vegan. Most important of all, I quit drinking. A decade of self-destruction placed behind me in a literal moment. It was a clear thought that presented itself to me, a grace of awareness that if I never wanted another drink again, it would be granted to me in a very instant. 25 years ago, and never a drink again. Should all of this be attributed to those earliest days of yoga, or yoga at all? I don't know, and honestly, care very little of its cause. It's been well over 30 years of truly committed practice, many changes to my approach, and with little concern of any miracles involved. Every day flows with a sure and certain grace. A manifestation happens on its own, life spontaneously presenting itself through each continuous moment. None of it is due to any effort on my end, but I am a direct participant in its happening, a miracle within an ever grander mystery. My yoga is simply part of this, and that's enough for me to know. So, I'll go through it again, slow. And, anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. I usually add in, explanations here and there. So we'll see how it goes. It always seems to go better the second time. When I read it the first time, there's always a little nervousness, and I don't know why. Could be because right now I have one of my cats as an audience, and they're very judgmental creatures. Less those than my dog, who is always happy when I read out loud. So, my earliest days of yoga were full of stories and manifestations, miracles inspired by Paramahansa Yogananda in his autobiography, and fully expecting to gain even the slightest siddhis, my effort to proper yoga as presented by his Kriya Yoga style. So, I don't know if anyone's familiar with Autobiography of a Yogi. Came out in 1940s, early 1940s, and it was an immediate bestseller, surprisingly, as yoga wasn't an extremely popular activity, and here was this strange East Indian yogi, orange robes, talking about the miracle of yoga and meditation, his practice of Kriya Yoga, which is sort of a cleansing style of yoga. And it's been a perennial bestseller all through these years, 60 some years later, and it is still the beginning point of many people on the spiritual path or on the yogic path, how to learn meditation. I did his self-realization fellowship course for many years in the late 80s through the 90s. My first experiences meditating. I had taught myself yoga before that, but his book certainly set me on the path. At one time, I even considered being a monk in his order. His book is full of miracles, meeting saints, and everyone performing these wonderful abilities brought about by their yogic practice, meditation practice of being able to materialize things, of being able to walk on water, suspending the breath for indefinite periods of time. And I certainly wanted that. Continuing though, of course, dramatic miracles eluded me. I was never able to instantly showcase my yogic powers. But looking back on those earliest days of yoga, miracles certainly did occur. Indeed, life-altering in some pretty amazing ways. My turn towards yoga, from years of dabbling to full commitment, was largely due to that sense of failure within the world. Unable to gain the smallest hold of any kind of success I believed I needed. My friend Destiny, Forever Walks, PhD, is here. Hello, Destiny. So some of my earliest commitment to yoga was about worldly success. Sort of. There's always that spiritual commitment, but I believed that through embracing the spiritual, I would be able to manifest purpose, a sense of purpose that I really felt I needed at that time. That if I could just get a foothold, if I could just find out what I wanted to do, make a living doing it. Because being an artist, being a writer certainly was not paying any bills. Plus, to the disappointment of parents, relationships, all of that fed into that sense of failure, which is just another view of the ego, judging myself. Drinking to excess every day of the week didn't help matters. Smoking, a poor diet, even though I prided myself as an athlete in training. It was an odd time of contradictions that can only be explained by being young. Until it continued long past the time I should have let that behavior go. But that's the thing with addictions. There is no letting go without a large degree of grace involved. And yoga, meditation, cultivated that sense of grace. Miracles occurred. So here's the funny thing. Bill W., founder of the 12 Steps of AA, believed the only way to gain sobriety in life was through an epiphany of spirit. And it's one of the 12 steps, surrendering and cultivating so that grace can be bestowed. We cannot earn grace. The very nature of grace eludes effort, chasing after it. The more you chase after grace, the less possibility of it ever occurring. However, we can court grace. We can make ourselves ready to receive it. And a sadhana, meaning spiritual practice of any kind, is a way of cultivating grace. Here's an amazing thing though. Sometimes our sadhana, our spiritual practice, is self-destruction. Drinking, for me. Drinking broke me open. Even as I was beginning to practice meditation and yoga, my addiction still raged, as I wrote about there. And it was meant to break me open so that I could receive, as the beautiful poet, songwriter, singer Leonard Cohen said, that everything's meant to break because that's how the light gets in. Destiny says, all our worldly successes can never mount up to what the universe has in store for us. I believe that as well. So we drink, we smoke, we have other addictions, some of us, not all of us, until we break open and then the light comes in. That's how it happened for Bill W. Before he founded AA. He had that epiphany. He actually believed in the 50s, after experiencing with LSD, that psychotropic drugs could be a way of inducing grace. And he was almost kicked out of the movement because of that statement. Uh, However, he retracted, but he still held that belief himself. I think it's a way of opening the door a crack, but I don't think any type of psychotropic drug takes you all the way. What takes you all the way is grace, and how you cultivate grace or how you prepare yourself to receive grace is one, living life, and that includes no small amount of suffering for some time. It's what the Buddha said, life is suffering. However, he also offered a path so that we don't suffer, so we can train ourselves. There's a difference between the sorrows of life, grief, sadness, and suffering. Suffering is a psychological process of clinging to that which isn't meant to be clung to, and expecting things to stay. Life is impermanent. Life is always in motion. The harder we try to grasp something, the more it just slips through our fingers. However, here's what a teacher showed me once. Opening your hands up to the sky and making a fist, you can't receive anything. It's tight, clenched. Nothing can be received. However, open your hand, reach to the sky, and you are literally holding the entire universe in your hand, receiving everything. It's about being loose. It's about being open. So, continuing on. Smoking first. I don't even recall my last cigarette other than waking one morning without the urge to smoke. The draw to damage my lungs even further had simply disappeared. My diet changed soon after, cleaning out to a large degree of unhealthy choices, adding fruits and vegetables in return, and switching to a largely vegetarian diet as my empathy towards every life form overcame the appetite of cruelty and harm to animals, although I was still many years away from my eventual turn to being vegan. Most important of all, I quit drinking. A decade of self-destruction placed behind me in a literal moment. It was a clear thought that presented itself to me, a grace of awareness, that if I never wanted another drink again, it would be granted in that very instant, 25 years ago, and never a drink again. Should all of this be attributed to those earliest days of yoga, or yoga at all? I don't know, and honestly care very little of its cause. It's been well over 30 years of a truly committed practice, many changes to my approach, and with little concern of any miracles involved. Every day flows with a sure and certain grace. Manifestations happen completely on their own, life spontaneously presenting itself through each continuous moment. None of it is due to any effort on my end, but I am a direct participant in its happening, a miracle within an ever grander mystery. My yoga is simply part of this, and that's enough for me to know. And that's it. That was this morning's blog post, what I wrote, my earliest days of yoga, and how I can't say that I overcame addiction through yoga, but I can honestly say that yoga prepared me to let my addictions go. That's about as clear as I can possibly say it, I believe. Destiny says, I do agree with all you're saying, Eric. We do cling to things that serve us any purpose. Not only do we cling to things, but we attempt to push things aside, things that are present. If we're grieving, if we're sad, people are constantly trying to cheer us up. Don't be sad. Don't be depressed. Don't be in sorrow, or eventually you'll get over your grief. My father died 2 years ago, and I'm not over my grief. I don't need to be over my grief. When it's time to grieve, grieve. Here's why we suffer. When we refuse to grieve when it's time to grieve, we push it aside and say, I don't want to feel this way. That just buries it down. That's what becomes what Carl Jung called the shadow. Pushing that stuff aside, pushing it aside. It has to go somewhere. And it just doesn't disperse within the universe. We're pushing it inside of ourselves, and we carry that dark cloud around behind us for the entirety of our life unless we learn to deal with it. Meditation, yoga, deep prayer work, breath work, yoga nidra, all of those help us not eliminate the shadow, but to shine the light of awareness on the shadow. And awareness heals everything. Destiny says, your story that you are sharing is powerful and it can change many lives. Keep sharing your truth there. Thank you, Destiny. I appreciate that. It definitely, I'd say it's a testament to yoga, it's a testament to meditation, but the story is going to be different for everyone, and it should be. What meditation does is it teaches you not to cling. If you cling to each and every thought that occurs to you when you're meditating, you'll be unable to meditate. However, if you simply sit in the pure awareness of thoughts passing by, you are effortlessly already meditating. It's as easy as that. Meditation is simply being aware. It's the mind's job to produce thoughts, to think. That's what the brain does. It's a neurochemical reaction going on in the brain. However, we aren't neurochemicals. We aren't a chemical reaction. We aren't synapses flying around. We are the awareness of all of that happening. We're aware that thoughts are occurring. What a big, big breakthrough to be aware. I'm not my thoughts. The conversation that's going on in my head, that's not me. I'm that silent presence that is aware of all that's occurring. What a huge relief. Because you know what? I don't always like the stuff that's going on up there. Sometimes I have some silly thoughts. Sometimes I have some sad thoughts. Who knows? All kinds of thoughts. Any thought is possible always. As I forget, Kierkegaard, my fallback philosopher. If I can't think of who actually said it, I always go to Kierkegaard. Nothing human is foreign to me. I think the original statement was, nothing human is alien to me, but I've heard it both ways. And it sounds better foreign to me. Meaning, all the things that can occur to be a human are natural. However, that doesn't mean that that's who we are. We always remain the awareness of all that happens. So that's basically what today's blog post was about. That I started my my commitment to meditation, hoping to gain some type of success, hoping to perform the miracles that Paramahansa Yogananda talked about in his book. And I never did. Not those kind of miracles. However, my practice led me towards every one of those addictions mentioned, to effortlessly leave my life. I can't make a promise that that's going to happen to everyone. If you start meditating, you're going to be addiction free. You're going to start writing every single day for 20 plus years. But I would venture a promise that your life will get significantly easier, that you will learn to let things go. The benefits of meditation begin the very moment you sit in meditation. Your blood pressure drops, your stress decreases, your immune functions increase, you're calmer, you're more at peace. However, it is also something that grows over a period of time. So it would be great if you only had to sit in meditation once and all of that happened and all of it stayed. But it's a practice. Like practice, we show up for it every day. If you want to be a good writer, if you want to be a good photographer, you write, you take photographs, you practice your art. Meditation is an art. Meditation is also the best way to really learn to be free to pursue those other arts. I am a significantly better writer now that I meditate, now that I am committed to my yoga practice. In the 90s, I would try to write and I might be successful for a day or two, and then I'd have a long stretch of feeling uninspired, and I would get depressed because here I'm supposed to be a writer and I'm not producing anything. And I did what every writer does, every famous writer. I drank, I smoked, and I thought about, those days when one big idea will come to me and I'll make it big. As my meditation practice deepened, my creativity expanded. And what I discovered, you don't chase inspiration, you allow it. It's always present. All I have to do is look out my window. All I have to do is have a conversation with my cat who will meow something beautiful to me. All I have to do is open any book and find a word, and it'll set off a chain reaction of thoughts that follow. Take a morning walk and be out in nature, and mysteries, secrets of the universe will be revealed in a blink of a star, in the motion on a lake, in the sound of the earliest dawn chorus that begin to sing before the sun even hints at shining. How can you not have something to write about? How can you not have something to take a photo of? How can you not have something to paint? Is it always going to be the grandest painting or photograph or writing? It doesn't have to be. It has to be what it is today. And then you show up tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And you don't show up out of a sense of, this is what I have to do. It's not a choice. You show up because you're an artist. You show up because you are a direct participant with the universe, and the universe is whispering to you right now, saying, create, expand, show me what you got. And so we do. Guys, that's it for tonight. Not my best reading. Some days it flows, some days it doesn't. Someday my lips and my tongue are in a coordinated effort to read something, and other days I'm stumbling all over myself. But I show up every day and I read. And I enjoy it. And most of all, I enjoy my friends being here. I do try to keep these short so that people can watch the whole thing later. So I'll be signing off. However, I've got to say hi to my friend, Duncan Walsh, Fitness Motivation. I appreciate you showing up, Duncan. I'm just about to end it, though. Oh, I'm glad you caught some of it. Duncan said, thanks for sharing your story and the inspiring topics. Have an awesome night. You too, my friend. Duncan says, I missed the boat today. It's still here. You can skim through it. So, guys, I'm actually going to go live on Instagram, part of my double feature. So I don't know if you guys are on Instagram or not. Always fun to have to run into friends from different social media settings and have those worlds sort of come together. So I will see everyone tomorrow for some burpees in the morning, and then we'll do another live session. Actually, tomorrow there'll be burpees, but it's going to be volume day for chin-ups and dips. I'm enjoying those sessions quite a bit. Don't know if I'm going to add weight, but I don't know that if I actually have to either. We'll see. Guys, I'll see y'all later. Take care. Hey, Kat.